Okay, let's get started on our next topic, informed consent, especially the information part of informed consent.
Well, most of the studies I've worked on have had a consent form. It has all the information all of the participants will need to know before they sign up for it.
Is it a legal document?
Well, federal law dictates the kind of information that needs to be gathered, right? And researchers need to be truthful when they're talking to people who might potentially participate. They need to say things about, for instance, the purpose of the study, what the time commitment might be, what the risks and benefits of the study might be, who could be included and who needs to be excluded, and what they're going to do with the information once they collect it. But it really isn't a binding contract.
Really, you sign it, but it's not a contract.
One of the most important things about research is that it's voluntary and that anyone who signs up to participate can stop at any time. But we'll talk more about that later. The point of the signature in the consent form is to show us that the individual has read or heard all the details of the study before they agree to take part.
When I first started doing research, I remember thinking I could just give them the form and be done with it. Of course, they're going to read it on their own.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Have you ever read your cell phone contract?
But now experience has taught me the importance of really going over everything and all of the important information in the consent form with the person. And that's doubly true if it's a complicated study. I remember this one time where I had to go and recruit illegal drug users for a long-term study.
That's a tough crowd.
Yeah.
Didn't you have to make sure they weren't high when they signed the form?
Well, of course, it's very important. We were making sure that people weren't using was a pretty difficult part, but it wasn't the most difficult part. And this was a long-term study that required participants to make several visits to a health clinic for different surveys, as well as some medical tests, blood tests, and that sort of thing. Every couple of months for about a year, they were supposed to come back. Some questions. It's like any other survey almost. You've taken the census.
Yeah.
You've answered questions before.
And I'm getting paid for this, right?
Yes, you'll get between $10 and $20 for every research visit. And between $10 and $20. So, but before we start, I'm going to need you to sign this consent form, and it'll explain everything you need to do for the study. And when I first started recruiting, I was so focused on getting people to sign up that I didn't go through the consent form as well as I should have. Okay, maybe the 15th.
All right.
Thank you.
So what now?
Excellent. So now you'll take the survey, and it'll take about 25 minutes or so, and you will get $15 when we're done today.
All right.
And so we'll be ready to go. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on this, because I want to get you out of here as fast as possible. And I just told them what they were going to do that day. And so some people were walking away thinking that that was the whole study, and it was really just the initial survey. And I had a hard time getting people to complete the whole study. I didn't really explain how long the surveys were going to take, and some of the people didn't understand that they were signing up for a study that was going to take a year, and that they would have to go back to the clinic for blood tests and surveys so many times. I mean, I had the hardest time getting those people to come back because they didn't have a good idea of what the study involved from the beginning. I'd call them, but they acted like they never met me. Hi, this is Ronnie from the health study. I was calling to reschedule your follow-up visit.
Oh, yeah, I took that survey.
This one's for the blood test.
Blood test? What?
Yeah, the study that you agreed to participate in includes not just the survey you already took, but a few visits to the clinic over the next year. And the first one needs to be done within the next week. We just need to draw some blood so we can do some tests for certain diseases.
Wait, no, that's not part of what I signed up for.
This was all explained to you in the consent form that you signed?
Nah, I can't do this. I don't have the time.
And after that, I spent a lot more time going over the consent form. I realized I couldn't just, expect people to read it themselves and understand it. I mean, since the study involved a lot more than the initial survey, I realized I had to make people understand the full extent of their participation. This section lists all the things that you'll be required to do as a participant in the research study.
This is a pretty good sized list.
Well, we want you to be sure that you know what you're signing up for. Think about it before you agree to it. And here's a list of all the visits you'll need to make to the health clinic.
So, I'm gonna be in this research for a year?
Yes. There'll be 6 visits in all, one about every 2 months. Each visit will last about 2 hours.
Well, I guess, that doesn't sound too bad.
Let's see. You'll have to go to the health clinic at Oak and Main. Do you know where that is?
Yeah, that's not too far from my apartment, actually.
That's good. Now, every time you go, you'll have surveys and questionnaires to fill out. At the first visit and the last visit, you'll have to have blood drawn so that certain medical tests can be done. Now, are you okay with the information so far?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Great. Now, this section here is a list of all the medical tests that will need to be done on your blood, including an HIV test, a genetic test that can help us determine whether there's a link between addiction and genetics. And also, there'll be tests to determine whether or not there are drugs and alcohol in your system.
That's part of your research?
Yes, but we don't share that information with anyone, except the HIV test. We're required by law to report if someone is HIV positive to the health department. But if someone is HIV positive, we do tell them and provide counseling and help them to get some care that they need.
Well, can I have some time to think about this? It's a lot to take in.
Absolutely. Take your time. Why don't I give you a call by Friday if I don't hear from you?
Sure.
If you could write your number down there. And you can take that form with you. And I'm going to give you my card with my phone number. Now, do you have any other questions that you can think of about the study?
Yeah, let me just look through this real quick.
I found that when I thoroughly went over everything that was involved in the study, some of the people didn't want to agree to sign the consent form, but most of those who did completed the study, and participants knew what it was they were agreeing to do and were able to make a thoughtful and informed decision.
Now, the flyer said I'll get paid $15 for taking this survey. Is that true?
That is true. You'll get $15 for the initial survey, and then you'll get additional monies for each of the other surveys and visits that you'll have.
Wow. So $15 now and money later on? I need the money. I'm game. Where do I sign up?
Well, now hold on. I'm glad you're interested, but I really want to go over everything that's involved and potential risks, so you know what it is you're signing up for.
Risks? What kind of risks are involved in taking a survey?
Well, we ask some sensitive personal questions. Some ask about illegal behavior, for example.
Well, is anybody going to see these answers?
Well, we hope not. We take a lot of steps to keep that from happening. For example, we limit who has access to the information using computer passwords and locks on cabinet files. We also like to store information to keep in touch with you, your name, your telephone number, separate from your survey or the results of your blood test. We use code numbers.
Does that stuff always work? I don't want a bunch of people calling me, getting my information.
Now, we take a lot of care, but we can't promise 100% that nothing will be breached. Accidents do happen, but it's extremely rare.
Wow, I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I'm giving out a lot of personal information here.
Yes, and we want you to make a decision that you're comfortable with. This is entirely up to you.
All right.
One thing I found is that some people are very concerned about the researchers having access to their medical records.
Really? I've recruited a lot of people who don't mind researchers going through their medical records.
Oh, sure, some don't, but some people do. That's why I make a special effort whenever I'm recruiting for a research study where I know that the researchers are going to access their medical records. I make a special effort to point that section out in the informed consent form, and I make sure they understand it.
Hello, is this Deborah Smith?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
Yeah, I signed up for the study today, and I do not want anyone looking at my medical record.
Okay, well, don't worry. As I explained to you this morning, you're free to withdraw at any time. Can I please have your name?
My name is Kim.
First, let me apologize. I'm really sorry for any misunderstanding. I thought I made it clear when we spoke earlier that part of your consent to participate meant giving the researchers access to your medical records.
No, you did not. I didn't know it until I read this whole long form. It's just hidden there in the middle.
Don't worry. You don't have to take part anymore if you don't want to.
Well, yes, I want to withdraw.
I thought I had gone over the informed consent process with her thoroughly, but I guess I was concentrating more on the things she'd have to do, like make extra visits to the hospital for the research participation.
It makes sense.
Yeah, but it wasn't until she got home and she read the consent form thoroughly, that's when it registered with her that the researchers were going to be gathering information from her medical records.
So what do you do next in a situation like that?
Well, I called Lucy, who was the PI on that research study, right away. And at first, I was kind of nervous because I thought she was going to be mad at me for messing up. But she reassured me that this kind of thing happens sometimes. So the next day at work, we handled it.
I got your email last night and gave it some thought. When did she enroll?
Just yesterday morning. She called me last night. She was very upset about that consent form.
Okay, so we can assure her that no information was collected from her medical records yet.
Thanks. That makes it a lot easier.
Yes, definitely. Here's what we're going to do. You can call her now and assure her that she's no longer enrolled in the study and that no one has accessed her medical records.
Okay, I'll do that right now.
I will also write her a personal letter repeating this for her, and I will report this to the IRB. So once you've called her, email me.
Okay, I'll take care of it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like teamwork and communication saved the day.
Yes, Deborah reacted calmly and quickly, which is always the best way to solve a problem.
Now, you said you reported this to the IRB. What is that?
The IRB stands for Institutional Review Board. An IRB is a committee that ensures that the research will be safe and that no one will be harmed in any way. All universities that conduct research with people have these IRBs. A research project and the informed consent forms and all the other materials given to participants or potential participants have to be approved by an IRB before the project can start, before anybody can be approached about participating.
Okay, that's good stuff. You guys have really given me some food for thought here.
Speaking of food, do you think we could take a break? My stomach needs a little something.
Oh, your stomach always needs something.
I'm a growing boy, you know?
Okay, let's take a 15-minute break.
Okay.